Tonight on The Reggie Miller Show, we're going to get up close and personal with Governor Evan Bayh. And we'll set our sights on Atlanta with former Olympic gymnast Kelly Garrison. Then turn up the volume for the music of Powertrain. The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by Mountain Dew and Marsh. Now, please welcome our own Olympian, the host of the show. It's Reggie Miller time.
Wow, thank you. We have one fired up place here in the warehouse. This is nice. By the way, I'm glad to see that you guys are fired up because I just see one of you. Because, you know, for a while there, I was kind of seeing double there, and I'm glad to have just one of you guys in my vision. But to tell you the truth, we only have one Double Trouble show tonight because we got a jam-packed show lined up for you right here in the warehouse tonight. With the Olympic fever running wild in Indy the last few days, we have the perfect guest to help us bring home the Olympic spirit. She is definitely no stranger to the Olympic Games and international competition. She competed in the 1988 Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea, as well as an array of other international gymnastic competitions. My torch-lighting buddy, Kelly Garrison, is with us tonight. But people say that double trouble can be twice as nice. See, I learned that from the governor himself from my secret Reggie Miller phone. See, I bet you guys didn't know I had one of them kind of phones, right? He's the new father of twins, and in his second term as governor of the state of Indiana. Please help me give a Reggie Miller welcome to the leader of the state of Indiana, Governor Evan Bayh. Hey, thank you. All righty.
Thank you.
Man.
It's quite a welcome, as an Olympian deserves.
No. This is your state. You know, I'm just glad to be here with you. Doesn't he have, like, a glow about himself? Can you just tell about the twin? So tell me how fatherhood is treating you.
Fatherhood's great, Reggie. The boys are the light of our lives, and it's changed our lives a little bit. I look forward to getting home from work a little bit earlier, and I don't know about the glow, but if you look a little more closely, you'll find some formula here and some things like that. But the boys are wonderful. It kind of puts life in perspective.
Now, we all know that having a kid, of course, takes a lot of preparation and so forth, but having twins, did you guys really expect to, you know, you got to buy, you know, like you said, 2 formulas, 2 Pacer outfits, 2 Pacer basketballs.
We've got 2 of everything, and but it, as Susan says, it makes we buy in bulk, so there's some advantages to that. But it's great. We have the double stroller, so we're going down the sidewalk. We got 2x2, and it's kind of nice. She has one, I have one, and the only problem is when one of us is gone and they're both crying at the same time. That's a handful.
Now, does that happen all the time? That if one starts to cry, then the other one
there's some of that. They're pretty well-behaved boys, but, you know, babies will be babies, and let me tell you, it's a handful at night.
Do they both, you know, do the back thing at the same time and get to change the diapers?
Well, there's a little bit of that, too, although I gotta be honest, Susan does most of that. I usually call for assistance when that's going on, but they eat a lot, and so when you eat a lot, the other part happens a lot, too. Now, I don't want to scare you off from all this.
Now, Marita and I were thinking about having kids, but this whole, you know, description, you're kind of scaring me.
You got to. That's only once or twice a day. I'll tell you, Reggie, there is nothing like having your child look up into your eyes and smile. That makes everything worthwhile. You forget about the other part.
Now, I'm sure you're going to start bringing them to the games next year.
They're little Pacers fans already. As I was mentioning to you, we got their little outfits, and they'll be cheering you on.
Well, not only myself, but you got Antonio, you got Dale.
Well, Antonio's got twins too, so we'll have that in common.
Hey, you know, one of them's a girl. We can start like matchmaking a
a
little bit. You know, they're both at that age.
Never too soon to start. And Susan's a natural matchmaker, but one of our sons, Nicky, looks like he's going to be pretty tall, so you'll have to give him some pointers when he gets a little bit older.
Now, Susan's been doing a lot of things on television lately on motherhood and so forth. Is she enjoying that as well?
She is just a natural mother. She loves it, you know, and I'm just so happy to see her so pleased. And she is doing some reports on children's issues and that kind of thing. It's because we're living it. So I come home at night and I've got a stack of things involving the state, and she's got a stack of children's things. So particularly twins are a little bit different. I kind of wonder whether there'll be more sibling rivalry or they'll be closer because of the same age, and I think there's some of each. So we want to give them every advantage, and she's doing a great job of that.
Well, that's great. Will you sit there tight, and when we come back, hear some questions?
I'd be happy to take questions.
All right, Evan Byer, right after this, with some questions for the governor.
The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by your Lincoln Mercury dealer and by Ameritech.
It's drive one out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with 2.9% financing for up to 48 months or $600 cash back on the exciting Mercury Mystique or the hot-selling Mercury Sable. Either way, you'll drive home a winner with total savings of up to $4,010 on Sable LS and up to $3,222 on Mystique GS. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
Sure, I told you. Remember, I tell you everything. I'm the one who told her half. Wait, got a call. Nope, not him. So I'll wait him.
See the name behind the beep. Now Call D works with call waiting. Try it free for 30 days.
Congratulations, sweetie. Our granddaughter has my eyes and, your...
Check. Link to...
Child's play. Whoa. Shaken, not stirred.
Nothing's more intense than slamming a doof.
Because every kid's a magnet for germs, and every pan's a magnet for grease, there's new Dawn Antibacterial. Cuts tough grease better than any antibacterial. Kills germs on hands, too. New Dawn Antibacterial.
Will the pan that made the ribs on Sunday still be soaking Monday? No way. Concentrated Ultra Dawn's more powerful than ever. Use less, soak less. Ultra Dawn gets stuck on grease off better.
Thank you. Let's hear it one more time for the band Powertrain.
Yeah.
Yes. Joining us in the warehouse is WTHR's own and the best co-host in the business, Dave Calabro. Dave, I'm sure you got some great questions for myself and the governor. Am I right?
I think so, Reggie. Welcome back. Good to see you, and also good to have the governor with us here tonight. Stand up here, big fella. This is Derek. Is that your name?
Yeah.
Who's your question for?
Governor,
Okay, what's the question?
do you want your kids to follow in your footsteps?
Well, Derek, that'll be up to them. I want our boys to be happy, and if they want to go into public life, I'll sure help them if I can, but I don't want them to do that just because that's what I've done. So if they choose to do that, I'd be proud, but I want them to be happy, so I'll support them in whatever they want to do.
Oh, that's great.
Excellent. I like that jersey. I like that jersey. Hopefully that's got a lot of luck in this jersey. Who's your question for? And what's your name, first off?
Alicia. For Evan By, what do you think about the 8 o'clock curfew that President Clinton has proposed, and would you let it pass?
Great question,
Wow,
young
that's
lady.
a great question.
It was, what do I think about the 8 o'clock curfew and?
That the President Clinton has proposed.
Well, I think in some parts of our country it makes sense. Unfortunately, there is a lot of violence in the streets, and unfortunately, in too many cases, it involves young people. Now, obviously, there's some trade-off there as far as civil liberties are concerned, but when you have people dying in great numbers in some communities, I think we have to take action. So I could support that in places that have high rates of crime.
That was a great question.
It was a very good
question. How you doing tonight?
It's fine.
What's your name, sir?
Paul.
This is Paul, and your question's for?
I just wanted to ask a question to the governor, and I want you to ask Reggie if he's returning to the Pacers next year.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to put him on the spot, but I can tell you, Reggie, you got my vote. And, you know, taxes are a lot lower in Indiana than in New York or California.
Oh, my goodness. I think that was a trick question. No, I'm having a great, you know, I've had a great stay right here in Indiana, and with yourself and your family, it's been wonderful. But you're a ringer question. That was nice.
A ringer question, but a good question.
I think we've tried every angle, but not that one yet. How you doing? What's your name, sweetie?
Ashley.
Ashley, who's your question for?
The governor.
Okay.
Is having the twins everything you expected or more work than you can handle?
Both, Ashley. How about that? It was everything we've expected and more. And there are a lot of joy, a lot of fun, a lot of work too, but we're just thrilled, couldn't be happier, and I thank you for asking.
Now, the nannies help a lot, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when you have one, I'm sure is a lot. We've never had one, but the best advice we got, actually, is from Jane Pauley, also a fellow Hoosier. Right. She has twins. Her advice was, you got to get help. And Susan's mom came and stayed with us for a while, but in the long run, you need some additional assistance, and so we're fortunate we do have a wonderful woman who helps us out.
That's great.
I think we got time for one more question. Your name?
My name's Molly. And my question is, what are your plans for the future, and what are your political aspirations? Are we going to see you representing Indiana in the future?
Thank you, Molly. Susan keeps asking me what my plans for the future are. I guess I'll have to tell her to tune into the show here, Reggie. She'll find out. But, well, during the next couple of years, obviously, I want to help take care of our boys and support my family. I love working for the people of Indiana. Molly, it's possible that I might decide to represent us in another capacity if you and everybody else would support me. So maybe running for something else at some point.
Thank you. We see the big picture. You know, us as being Hoosiers, we see the big picture. Maybe President by?
Well, only if one of the twins decides to run, Reggie. No, it's always flattering to be thought of in those terms, but you know, I enjoy representing our state, and then you know, the future will take care of itself.
Well, I appreciate you coming by. I know you got to get home, change those diapers.
Yeah.
Tell the wife I said hello, and thanks for coming by once again.
I love you, Marita.
Thank you. Evan By right here. We'll be right back with Powertrain right after this. You got to sign my board, though.
I got over the puppies.
You don't need an appointment. Just go to CarX for brakes instead of the dealer and you'll save.
Enough of new waiters.
Get the parts and save big on brakes.
I'm gonna buy silk tie.
He saved $65.
What you gonna do with all the cash you saved? New hats for everybody.
And she saved on her exhaust at CarX.
What you gonna do with all the cash you saved? Save a bundle, call the CarX man.
It's drive one out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with the lowest lease price of the year on the totally redesigned Mercury Sable, just $212 a month. Or get 2.9% financing on the 96 Sable with V6 power, dual airbags, and room for 5 or 6. No wonder sales are up. This is one hot player. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
Tonight's Rappin' with Reggie and the Gov is brought to you by Marsh.
Reggie Miller goes one-on-one with Don Marsh.
I know how much Indiana loves this basketball.
And I know how much Indiana loves its Pacers.
That's why we've always supported the Pacers.
Marsh is a great supermarket, so I'm glad to be teaming up with you to tell...
Excuse me, Mr. Marsh? I hate to interrupt, but may I please have your autograph?
Sure. Thank you.
I just love your commercials.
Marsh, gonna make you smile.
Come to think of it, Mr. Marsh, I love those commercials, too. Training is such a bore.
Nothing's more intense than slamming a dude. Well, Andre's really on fire. Whoa. Gotta hand it to those new coaches.
Bravo! Brilliant! Smashing! Good shot!
Out.
Welcome back. Thank you. Our musical guest for tonight was so good the first time that we brought them back for an encore. Please sit back and enjoy the music of Powertrain.
Your feet start moving. Hear the speakers start to pump. Sitting still gets harder to do when your baby's got to go. Ain't got time for reason. Ain't got a reason for time. Let the music take over you when your baby's got to go. She's got to groove and she knows it. She's got to groove and she knows it. She's got to groove and she knows it. By the way that she moves. I don't know what makes it work. And I really don't care. Trouble is when you start to move and your baby's got to go. Ain't got time for a reason. Ain't got a reason for time. Let the music take over you when your baby's got to go. She's got to groove and she knows it. She's got to groove and she knows it. She's got to groove and she knows it. By the way that she moves. Just
Powertrain, everybody. We'll be right back with Kelly Garrison right after this. That was nice, you guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks. Thank you. Ah, thanks for coming, my man. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming back, I should say. Thanks for coming.
Charles, if I'd heard, I would have told you. Remember, I tell you everything. I'm the one who told you to wear hats more often. Oh, wait, got a call. Nope, not him. So I'll... Wait, It's him.
For the first time, see the name behind the beep. Now caller ID works with call waiting. Try it free for 30 days.
Congratulations, sweetie. Our granddaughter has my eyes and, your hair.
Ameritech, your link to better communication.
It's drive one out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with 2.9% financing for up to 48 months or $600 cash back on the exciting Mercury Mystique or the hot-selling Mercury Sable. Either way, you'll drive home a winner with total savings of up to $4,010 on Sable LS and up to $3,222 on Mystique GS. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
Tonight's Holding Court with Kelly Garrison is brought to you by your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
Going to New Delhi, down to your bangy, Parisian city looks oh so pretty, you'll see. Montenegro, Mavkovsky, you score. Roma and Verona, and don't forget Sahara, London, Glasgow, San Bernardino, get here to this kindly test that I do on a long yacht trip. And get your kids on Route 66.
Speed up.
Done that. Yeah!
The Marsh Fresh Idea Card. So versatile, you could say the sky's the limit. Like when you make purchases with your Marsh Fresh Idea Card, it goes toward points for the Marsh Computers for Communities program. That means new computers for schools, churches, and nonprofit organizations. The Marsh Fresh Idea Card, the most valuable thing in your wallet. For more information on Computers for Communities, call 1-800-811-4567.
The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by Marsh and by Mountain Dew.
Miller on the stage with Kelly Garrison as the Olympic torch is in Monument
My
Circle.
next guest is an Olympic veteran. She helped me light the Olympic cauldron on the circle this past week. She's competed on the women's Olympic gymnastic team in the 88 Games in Seoul, Korea. Please give a warm Olympic welcome to gymnast Kelly Garrison. Hey, you remember this?
I do.
Take a seat here. Since you were carrying it the last leg. Now that had to have been exciting.
Oh, it was the best. I just hardly put into words what it felt like. As I was running in, I was real concerned about maybe tripping, you know, how it just turns to brick. And I thought, oh, what if I trip?
Okay, first of all, go back. How did you know you were carrying the last leg of the torch?
Well, as you know, different Olympians have been selected to run. And so I had been selected, and as they gave me the call, and I was like, really? You know, into the celebration? I mean, it wasn't just running, but it was running into the celebration and being able to be the last person to kind of help represent all the people in Indiana that had already run. So I was thrilled. I mean, I was just like, this is going to be too cool.
Okay, so you see the person running the next to the last leg coming up to you, getting ready to light the torch. And, I mean, how long was it? Maybe a quarter of a mile, a mile?
It's about not even half of a mile. So it wasn't very far. I mean,
right, but see, by the time you're running, that's when the crowd had gathered downtown.
True, yeah, they were there. And, you know, I turned when I lit the torch. And when I turned around and saw all the people, and they told me, you know, you can switch hands if your arm gets tired. So
that is kind of heavy.
Well,
now.
yeah, I mean 3 pounds, and so I'm running and thinking, oh, this is great, and waving, and then I realized I'm not going to be able to switch hands because I just couldn't stop waving. All these kids were waving to me, and so I'm going like this, and I thought, what if I start going like this? Catch my hair on fire. But, it was neat. And then when I kind of made it around the bend, and I saw you, I was like, this is the greatest. I mean, it was such a thrill.
No, it was a thrill for me because they called me, as they had called you, your husband Rick said, do you want to be part of the torch lighting ceremony? I'm like, well, sure. And because of proper protocol, you have to be an Olympian, a former Olympian, to run like yourself. So since I was going to be an Olympian, you know, in July. I didn't really qualify, so I'm like, was there anything I can do? Well, yeah, you can help accept with Kelly. I'm like, sure. So when I went down and waited on the steps and the masses of people that were down there, kind of gave me goosebumps.
Well, you kind of get used to that.
No,
I mean, you have to admit, you're big time.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. It's the difference when you're on a basketball court and they're like,
True.
You know, when you're actually surrounded by something like that. I get nervous, too.
Well, I don't know, you know, being professional and all.
Well, you're professional, too. Now tell me how 88 was in Seoul, Korea.
Well, as a team, we finished 4th, and actually we were very close to a bronze medal, but while I was performing on the uneven bars, a girl was on the podium, and she was pulling the board, and she was supposed to hop down off the platform, and she didn't know this. She had never been in the Olympics either, and she was our alternate, so when she just kind of crouched down behind the board, she didn't want to get into trouble. Well, this
let's see. Well, here. Don't need too many of Terry.
You're on.
I'm Beth Bruin. I'm Joe Pokorny's daughter.
Joe Pokorny. Okay. And I'm gonna hand over to me. Next.
I'm Patty, and I'm Joe's oldest daughter.
Okay.
Kentucky, and I am Carol Lilly's husband.
Joe Pokorny. Okay.
Terry. Who are you related to?
Okay.
I'm Kathy Hooper, and I'm Joe Pokorny's oldest granddaughter.
We all know who this is. This is Bill.
I'm Les Egan, and I'm here with Beth Bruin, Joe Pokorny's daughter. Ready?
Yes.
I'm Bill Kipp. I'm Norma's husband. Norma is Mamie's middle daughter. Okay, Lucy.
Lucy.
Lucy. I'm Lucy Pokorny, and I was married to Frank Pokorny for 44 years. I'm Norma Kipp. I am the daughter of Mamie Lilly and the granddaughter of Joseph Pokorny. I don't belong to anybody. This is Emma Kinnunen. She was married to Oliver Kinnunen. Her sons were David and Don, and her grandson is Chris, and she is the daughter of Joseph Pokorny.
Cat got your coffee?
And who is this?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm Linda. I'm going to put the disciplinary committee. And I'm Lily's daughter. I don't think pages are numbered, but I'm missing. I still have mine. I'm Tara, and I'm Linda Pakuda's daughter. This is her granddaughter, Kira. I'm Lori, and I am Mamie Lily's granddaughter, Norma Kipp's daughter.
And this is Kira, Tara's daughter, Linda Pakuda's granddaughter.
And great-grandma, and Grandma Mamie's great-granddaughter.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more time? Thank you.
I'm Cindy Pokorny. I'm sister-in-law to Joe Pokorny, married to Rick, who is his son.
I'm Beth Schofield. I am Jean Pokorny's Schofield's youngest child, and we're descendants of Joe.
very camera shy.
Yes. Are we done?
Okay.
Jane Pokorny, I was married to Ed.
Okay. And
You're live.
you're live.
All right, I'm Ron Hooper, husband of Kathy Yeamans Hooper, Patty Graham Michaelos, Pokorny Graham Michaelos, hard to keep up with that, daughter, which is a descendant of Joan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Let me know when.
You're on.
Go. I'm Jean Pokorny Schofield, daughter of Joan, second child of Joan Francis. That's all.
Pokorny. And I'm Rick Pokorny's daughter. And Cindy Pokorny's daughter. And this is Jonna.
Who is Jonna related to?
I'm not quite sure.
You're not quite sure? Okay. Okay.
My name's Ryan. I'm 6 years old. And my mom and dad name is Rick and Cindy.
Okay.
I'm 5. My name is Kevin. My name is and the next name is Ron. My mom's name is I'm Ryan and I'm 8 years old and my mom's name is Kathy and my dad's name is Ron.
You're on.
Hi, my name is Michael Taffy, and I'm Mamie Lily's grandson and Carol's son, Ken Jackie's son also.
And I'm his aunt.
This is my
You've already introduced yourself. Okay, cut.
Norma.
And this is...
I'm already
Bill.
Neighbor?
You're on.
You have to. It's a
Introduce
requirement.
yourself.
Otherwise, we throw you overboard.
All right. And what am I supposed to say?
Say who you are and your lineage.
I'm Lisa Pokorny, Ed's Pokorny youngest daughter. That stop now?
Hey, you're on.
We're now approaching the confluence of the American and
Okay, my name's Carmen and I'm Carol's daughter, Patty's granddaughter, and Joe's great-granddaughter. I'm Chris. Grandson and Joe and Chris's great-grandson.
Great.
They said that the daughters were sullen yet friendly. I didn't know what that meant until in one of the B&Bs. You don't tell me. Or Mamie's granddaughter, Carol's daughter.
I'm Annette Allison Tacky Knapp, and I'm Mamie Lily's granddaughter. And my mother is Carol Tacky. At least she's so. I'm Vicki Ostin, and I'm in Pokorny. Did you want to know?
Oh, that's fine. Who is this? Sound asleep.
Well, that's right. Well, that's right. Party prep. Just kidding. Good party. Two more. Oh, you're looking well. Uncle Joe's down there.
Yeah, in fact, I still working. Didn't but I cut down.
Yeah. Vicki or Lisa about when we were out there and Ed would come to visit. And what fun it was, because life at the homestead was kind of boring, and Carol and I had each other, and then we'd walk down the road and play with Gene and Mary Beth. But that was it. That was it. And there weren't toys to play with. You made your own toys out of a comb and a piece of tissue paper over it. That was a musical instrument, that sort of thing. And I remember Ed would come, and we always wore long johns for, you know, it's long underwear with a seat that buttons up. And of course, we could get them down, but we couldn't get them back up. So we'd walk around with the flap hanging down, and he'd always come around behind us telling us, "Barn door's open, barn door's open." We used to get so angry with him, but we knew it was just a lot of fun when he was there. And I remember that Mom taught, I think, Patty one winter at the homestead. I don't think anybody else was in that class, but Mom was teaching in country schools, and I always had to go to school with her when she taught because there wasn't anybody to babysit me. And Carol went too, and then eventually was old enough to be in school. But there was one winter I remember when she taught just Patty at Genna's house, and I always had to stay in the kitchen all by myself and entertain myself while Patty had her lessons. So at that point in my life, I didn't care too much for Patty.
What kind of grades did Patty get?
But when we were living out there, when my dad was in the service, I remember we would drive to a country school where she was teaching, and we had to get there much earlier than the other students so that she could put the coal in the furnace and have the room hot by the time they got there. And then the routine was that every kid had to stand in line or something like this, and she went through and she checked for clean ears and clean fingernails and all this kind of stuff, because that was part of the requirements of being acceptable to be in school, was to be clean. And in addition to reading, writing, and arithmetic, there was a lot done in terms of needlework. Well, the students were learning embroidery, knitting, crocheting, that sort of thing. And I still have some things that I did when I would go to school with her that I wasn't even old enough to be in the first grade yet. I was learning how to do the embroidery along with the other students. So there was a whole range of stuff that went on in a classroom besides just the 4 R's, which were, of course, emphasized. But my memories are vague. Some things I'm not sure if I remember because I imagined them or they really happened. And I would like to hear what other people remember about being out there as well. So when you feel like you have something to contribute, please stand up and tell us what you remember, because it's very interesting to everybody else. Thanks.
Cornflakes with hot coffee.
Yes, I remember that.
Remember? Cornflakes out of the cupboard. And we never had, there was never running water at Jenna's, and there was never any electricity. So it was lamps. He came over to the farm to get water in a boiler, and he drove an old car before the 55. What was Jenna's old car?
35 Ford.
A 35 Ford, and he was hard of hearing toward, in the later years, and when he used to come over and get water, we could hear him start the Ford, because he'd rev it up, and then he'd come on over and we'd meet him at the gate and open the gate. And there was one other thing I remembered about Jenna. He always told the same April Fool joke. April 1 about the geese. He'd say, "Oh, look at the geese flying over," and we'd all look, and he'd laugh, and he'd pull out on us every single time. That's what I remember.
You started a gas wash machine, but it would go put, 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 put the whole time it was washing. And then I remember going to the bathroom, to the old tin toilet, and once in a while finding a snake in the way between the house and the toilet. That wasn't real pleasant, especially if you're in a hurry to get out there. I don't know, it was just fun living out there.
Fun?
I mean, we just
has a weird sense of humor.
I mean, it was a kid's paradise because
Sure
Joe
it
and
was.
Francis
You were
had
there just a little while. Try being there for 18 years.
they would have thought differently. But Joe and Francis had those old cars parked around their buildings, you know, and we used to play in their kids and Norma and I don't know.
You should have been on the hay rack with my dad and always make a mistake. Boy, you never heard the last of it.
Oh, well, see, we didn't get in on the
Yeah,
bathroom.
we did.
Hay rack?
We loved it.
We had the header. He fixed his own, you know, a header out of a binder, and we had to drove along with the hay rack, and the wheat would fall in there. Well, I drove the one he was on, and boy, if I made a mistake, which I did, and often pulled the header attachment off of there, no wonder, I guess. He didn't like it
Probably
very
slowed
well.
him down, but
And the boys, well, Mamie drove she drove the binder. Remember? She drove the binder. The boys were on one wagon. Joe, my brother, Joe and Frank were on one. My dad and I on the other, and my mother was on the haystack. She was stacking, in August, she was stacking hay, and when my kid brother was born in October, she was still
up on
the
they don't make women like that anymore, thank God.
Oh, I know. My brother, incidentally, was a total surprise to family and the neighborhood. People would stop one another on the way to and from town, and the Pokornys have a boy. And my mother was mortified. At 44, and she had this kid, and he didn't have a stitch of clothes when he was born. I found it out from what'd you say?
Just continue with your story.
I found it out when I went to we were in high school, and my brother and a friend of his were going away from town. My friend and I were going toward town, and they were giggling, and they thought, well, did you hear the surprise? Well, of course I hadn't. I'd been to the big store, we called it, McNamara's. So the clerk there said, you have a baby brother. She said, I'd give $5 to see you look like that again. She was there. She lived at home. She didn't know till...
They didn't tell anyone that they were going to have this baby?
No.
Mom didn't know until
No.
Gitta told her to get the towels and heat the water.
She taught school, and she lived at home, and she didn't know. He came on Halloween. I think the witches brought him. Just about in Norway.
No, I remember, yes, the witches didn't bring him. A saint brought him.
So anyway, so that was one of the big surprises of our lives, wasn't it? And the farmers stopped each other on the way to and from town with the news. The Pokornys have a son, and my mother was mortified.
She wanted to keep it a secret forever.
She had, huh?
She wanted to keep it a secret forever.
Yes, yes. So what else do you want to know? It was rugged out there,
Joe
I'll
has
tell
a
you.
story to tell on you and Mamie.
Huh?
Joe has a story to tell on you and Mamie.
Which one?
The three of them on a horse.
Yes. I was the lead one. I was the littlest, so she put me up front. The clothesline caught me here and sheared us all off the horse. Here I am with this big welt on my neck. She puts me to bed. I'm not supposed to say a word.
Right to Grandma.
Huh?
Leave it to Grandma.
Well, anyway, so the first thing, they came home. You know what happened? They got it. She got it, I guess. So then I was always the tattletale. They were supposed to keep the cows out of the corn and stuff, and they'd folks would come home and I'd tattle right away. They didn't like me very well. I don't know why. And my Frank and I, we had our problems. I was with him in school from the 3rd grade on. We were in the same grade. We never liked that too well. Well, anyway, we walked 2.5 miles to school, and my mother always said, well, she never saw us coming, but she sure could hear us. And I was yelling blood or murder because he was chasing me from school. And after he'd have caught me, I don't know what would have happened. I was a pretty good runner because I don't remember ever, you know.
You would have told on him, so.
So then on the way from school, like I said in this little thing I wrote, on the way from school, when we were on friendly terms, we looked for birds' nests. And we'd mark each one with a stack of cow piles. Then when the little birds hatched, then we'd feed them our, on the way home, we'd feed them crumbs from our lunch, which was always jelly sandwiches, always, except once. The teacher took us, every girl in that school, home with her. On horseback, she lived clear outside Square Butte, miles, like 3 or 4 miles, I guess. She took each one of us home overnight. And then we had the daintiest lunch you've ever had. I even had a deviled egg. I'll never forget that.
We're showing off.
And little tiny dainty sandwiches, not those big slabs we had, you know, with butter and jelly. And oh, that was, I think that must have been the highlight of my life. To go over there and have this dainty lunch instead of peanut or jelly sandwiches. Oh, I could be here forever, so you go ahead.
Well, that's interesting, though.
Okay, Lucy has some San Diego, and that's where I met Frank, and Mamie is the one who introduced us. So anyway, we often used to go to the homestead, you know, for a weekend, and it was there that I fell in love with Eddie. He was just a little tiny boy, and he used to love to have me riding on the handlebars of his bicycle. And we had more fun doing that. So that's what I remember about going to the farm, homestead.
So I remember him. He'd rubberneck, he'd walk backwards. When Oliver would come to see me out there, he'd just walk backwards so he could see everything that went on. And it's a wonder he didn't trip or fall, because he had it down pat, so he could see everything we were doing. And you know, that wasn't so good. Edward. That wasn't so good. He had to go everywhere with us. We went to get cows, he had to go with us. We went to get berries, he had to go with us. But always craning is
To go and pick mushrooms. Because they grew wild, and then we'd have mushrooms and scrambled eggs for dinner, for breakfast. I can remember the butchering on the farm. I used that to great advantage when I went off to school, because I went to a boarding school when I went to college, and there wasn't enough food. And so when I was in college, I'd talk about butchering and eating blood sausage and making sausage, and all the city kids would go, ugh, and they'd leave the table, and the farm kids would have plenty to eat. We used to walk, Aunt Emma talked about going berry picking. We used to have choke cherries and what were those little sour berries? Buffalo berries. And go get them and make jelly. I used to go with Grandma when she would pick the berries, but I don't remember making the jelly. I was probably disappeared. She died when I was 8, but before that we were best buddies. Mother used to work in the garden, and I remember taking a nap in the summertime. And nobody was home because Mother was in the garden, Dad was in the field, so I was trucking over to Grandpa's, which was over the hill. Have all of you been to the farm? And there was a cow path, and here was this big bull snake laying there. And so I walked way around him, and then I ran on. But I'll never forget him. He looked awfully big. I don't think he was, but he looked awfully big to a little gal. Those are probably my biggest recollections. Like I say, Bubby and I used to walk to Drinkus. The neighbors, how far away are Drinkus? And Mrs. Jurenka always had, Mrs. Blazik always had lemon drops, and Mrs. Jurenka always had the little moon jelly candies. And whenever we went, but we always had to go and come back in time to cook dinner. So we'd go in the afternoon, we'd walk over there, we'd visit both of the ladies, and then I'd get my candy, and then we had to walk back. And that was before I went to school. The year that Aunt Mamie taught me, Aunt Mamie, didn't we finish that year at the school there on Sheep Creek or somewhere where you taught the Darlingtons.
That's my recollection too.
Okay, was that the same year? That was we started at Jetta's house, and then something happened to the teacher over there, and then Mamie and I would we would drive over there. And Linda, where's Linda? She couldn't say her name, and we used to tease her terribly because as she was learning to talk, we'd say, "What's your name?" "Winda Wooey, Winda Wooey." And we were merciless because you know how mean kids are? Do you remember that? No. You were in it. What's your name? Winda Wooey. Her L's were W's when she was really bitty.
I'll never forget the time Linda chased you and Norma down the stairs with their fight middies.
Oh. Carol and I used to fight a lot.
She had boxing gloves and she called them her fight middies, and she had them on, and the girls she was chasing.
We didn't dare touch her because we always got in trouble if we did.
She was another tattletale.
I was the instigator. Somebody had to tattle.
I am younger than you.
I only remember visiting the Lily girls when you lived in a yellow house outside of Fort Benton. That was my first
Pink.
memory of that.
Pink.
Pink?
That's right, Pink. Got it all?
No. You know, by the fairgrounds. Isn't that what you mean?
No. No. You lived in the valley, in the Loma Valley.
Yeah, between
Yeah.
Did you live there first? I remember that house, but I don't remember you ever being on the farm. Huh. I remember Don and Dave coming to the farm, and Aunt Emma and Uncle Oliver one time, and we got in the chicken coop and broke a bunch of eggs. Dad, do you remember that?
That doesn't been my kids.
Oh, yes. We were sent out to pick the eggs. Now, I grew up learning to say pick the eggs. Now I get teased because you gather the eggs, you pick apples. However, we were sent out to pick the eggs, and we ended up in an egg fight.
Or was I wonder.
Well, not around. No, we made sure of that.
You don't remember playing in the grain bins? Sliding down the grain?
Well, I remember doing that, but I don't remember you girls being there. I did that a lot growing up. First it was playing in it, then it was shoveling it. As we got older, we all had our turn shoveling it.
One of the other things I remember is spending Thanksgiving with Uncle Joe and Aunt Frances, and you guys. And Aunt Frances invariably fixed goose. And every year I had to be so polite. That miserable goose.
Well, and out there, we didn't go to school until I was in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We had a 9-month term of school. Before that, it was a few months. It was either in the summer or in the winter, or sometimes not all winter, and then in the spring. So it was just a few months. It's only 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that we had a 9-month term of school.
How did they pay the teachers out there?
Oh, I don't know. I went to
Dad was a school clerk. You were a school clerk. You used to pay the teacher. You used to write the check to pay the teacher. Where did you get the tax money? I mean, how did you get the money to pay the school teacher?
Taxes. The neighbors paid their taxes.
And then it went into a fund for the school teacher? Because Dad was the clerk when I was in grade school and used to write the teacher's check.
How long did you go to country schools?
8 years.
We all went. The only ones that didn't go, let's see, Rick and Margaret, you didn't go there.
Yeah, we did. I went to 1st and 2nd grade there. So Margaret would have been through 7th grade there.
Then they sent a bus out, but we all went to what was 2.5 miles. They taught 1st through 8th grade, and there was
Rick.
2 students. I went to 1st grade, there was just Pat and I.
And then did both of you live in the dormitory with Sandy when
All of us lived in the dorm until Margaret. Dad lived in the dorm.
Yeah. When Margaret was bused to town?
Rick was a long way.
Well, were you born before or after Gitta died?
remember the one winter he spent with us. Normally he would go to California.
I don't know if you spent that winter after our house burned down.
Yeah, well, the house that we lived out on the edge of town in Big Sandy, he was there that winter.
I didn't think he was, because I remember coming and bringing us candy, and that was our only reprieve from that clam chowder we ate all winter.
Oh, yeah. The restaurants are... Well, one of the stories that I've heard Uncle Joe tell is when Carol and Kenny got married, they had a big party after the wedding, and there was plenty to drink after, and Getta was having such a wonderful time that he almost fell off the step at our house. And then they got back home, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, they could still see his light on over at the house. And he just picked up his own bottle and kept the party going all by himself.
Yeah, can you tell the story about the frogs? It's a later era, but it's
Well, I was saying that Rick was born before Jetta died, because I remember Jetta too, and we walked over there when we were kids. We'd go and stay with Joe and Francis for the summer, or part of the summer, and we'd walk to Jetta's house, and he'd give us Oreos and those devil's food cookies, those cake chocolate cookies, and silver dollars.
Oh, dollars?
Sometimes silver dollars, yeah, really old ones. Like, you know, well, really old to us. Like, some were from the 40s, some were, I think I have a 1928, which I still have some of them. And then the story about the frogs was Rick and I was there for the summer. I had these new white galoshes for the following school year. And I had on these white galoshes, and we went down to the swamp in this black Montana mud. And I had those white galoshes on, and we were catching frogs, and we were stuffing them in gallon jars.
It was a 2-gallon, at least a 2-gallon glass pickle jar.
And we had that thing stuffed full. I mean, it was frogs all over the outside, clear to the top. And I kept screaming, I got one in my shoe, I got one in my shoe. And Rick would say, oh, you do not. And it was just mud slopped around in there, but they never did come clean. And we got in big trouble from Grandpa when we got home with those black, because we had that black mud. We were covered in it. And I remember Grandma saying, what are you going to do with those frogs? And we didn't know, of course. I think they were
Drove them loose, and they all headed for the reservoir.
Yeah, we let them all out in the front yard. But when my kids came back to the farm this past summer, they went looking for frogs too, because they had heard our frog story. That wasn't our only story. We had lots of them. We always used to chase this bull. Rick had this broken handgun. That long piece of rubber, and he'd hit at those. There was one old bull, and we'd always try to get it to chase us.
I bet Grandpa didn't know that.
I'd wear my jacket wrong side out because it had a red lining. We'd try to and I had moccasins on one time, I remember, and we were trying to get it to chase us, and you were hitting at it with that long sand belt thing, and it stepped towards us, and we were off. And I lost my moccasin on a cactus, and we didn't even go back for it. We just kept on hauling because we were sure it was after us, but I don't think it really was. I think it made a couple steps, and we were off.
I remember Kathy and I broke our share of eggs also.
Yeah, and we remember we put gravel and water in the gas tank of one of those cars.
Yeah.
We had big trouble for that.
I thought Rick was an angel.
You got silver dollars, and we got 25 cents a day for helping him harvest.
Well, we got it for nothing, because we were the
We
great
got it for
grandkids.
nothing. We got it for
That was probably a lot of money in those days.
25 cents a day, big deal. That's what we got for
at Christmas time, and then he would stay through until Easter when the weather was good enough that he could go back home. And needless to say, my daughters just adored him. He had time to stop and talk to them, which Ed and I didn't have time to do. But the things I remember were he would love to go to the Sokol parties with us in San Francisco. Sokol, as you know, was an athletic club.
organization.
Yeah, organization, and they had wonderful parties, and he would dance his feet off when we'd go to those parties. And one time, we came home and we were starting to have quick dinner and get ready to go, and he was sitting there with his head down, looking very unhappy. And Ed said to him, "What's the matter, Papa?" He said, "It's raining. We won't get to go to the party." And the other thing that I remember was he had a wonderful voice. He would sing all the old Czech songs to the girls, and his voice was excellent. Even, what was he, 87 when he died?
Yeah. That's different because when he stayed with us, we were teenagers and we'd have parties. Mom and Dad would leave and leave him in charge. And you didn't dim the lights because he would turn them back on. The looks and the... Or he'd corner all the guys in the kitchen and get them to play pinochle. And the girls would be left in the living room all alone.
That was his way of protecting you.
Yes, right. Well, one look from Ghetto would certainly chastise you. Anybody else?
And I ever got was from smoking. Cigarette catalog paper and corn silks. We were in a straw barn. And it wasn't because we were smoking, but we could have set the barn on fire. And we got the biggest licking of our lives because we were in that barn with so-called cigarettes.
Who else was in there with you?
Huh?
Which ones?
Joan.
Joan.
You were there. We were always. You got a licking, I did too. And I was always, if they got one and I didn't, I felt so sorry for them. But if I got one, they didn't. Ha ha ha! They thought that was big stuff. But you got that same licking for smoking those corn silk cigarettes.
Was Mom
We were
smoking
all in
too?
it together. No, just the boys and me.
Now, was the licking with the razor straw?
Yes.
Emma, that must be a story because I don't remember.
I said we might not all remember it the same way.
You were there.
Was the licking with the razor straw?
Probably, because that's usually what he used.
I remember it hanging there. It was a real threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got it.
But that's all it was. We're scratch kids. We never.
Yeah.
We didn't even get a threat. I can't even remember getting a threat.
Well, I just knew the stories of being spanked with, and that was enough.
Well, it was tough. Wasn't really a lot of fun.
Well, I have one. I may be young. Back then I was young, though. But Margaret and I used to go over to Gedda's house and cook. He was the best grandfather because we made all these horrible concoctions of everything in the kitchen. And, you know, we'd use up his groceries, I'm sure. And then he'd eat it.
I baked him a cake once and it was so bad. He valiantly ate it, but the dog wouldn't eat it.
And the other thing
oh, it was good, you know, and I know it wasn't. I looked up something, I thought I knew it from memory, and he ate it, and the dog wouldn't. So, you know, it couldn't have been very good.
Well, I can't believe anybody didn't remember the slop bucket this Saturday.
Oh, I was thinking about it.
Oh, Elle was the winner, John. Well, the one story I remember about Norma is she hated oatmeal, and this was before my time. And so she decided that to get rid of it, you know, there was an animal to feed it to, so she put it in the slop bucket. But unfortunately for Norma, it floated. Dog in big trouble. But see, we always had such a good time out there too. But it, you know, totally different.
Yeah, I'll say.
You guys mentioned other kinds of cookies. I don't remember Fig Newtons.
Yeah, that was a cookie.
And canned milk for your cereal.
Unless it was coffee.
Yeah.
But that when Mom was around, we couldn't have coffee.
Yeah, we couldn't put coffee on our cereal when Mom was around. We also had chocolate
That would stun our
cookies
growth.
with chocolate filling. They were just so special because we didn't get stuff like that at home.
I don't remember that. I must have
You were
given that
too
to
old.
the younger ones. Hungry?
Yeah, how about if you, well, go ahead and have dinner now because I think they must be about ready.
on The Reggie Miller Show. Let the festivities of race weekend begin. From TV's #1 hit, ER, Abraham Ben Ruby, and special guest, Captain Scott O'Grady, with music from Powertrain. The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you by Mountain Dew and Marsh. And now, here, filling in for Reggie, is Pat Carlini.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Those steps really scared me. I didn't think I was going to make it down those. I know Reggie bounces down them every week. We watch him. Reggie coming down the steps. Did anybody see when Boomer came down those steps? He did that big free fall, landed on his, I thought for sure that would be me tonight. It's nice to see all of you smiling faces here tonight. And if you're watching at home, welcome to the Reggie Miller Show. Reggie's not here. I'm the Reggie Miller Show tonight, so I'm sorry. I'm a little bit shorter than he is, but we do have a pretty good show. You know, Reggie's like, what, 6'8", I think it is, and our first guest is 6'7", so we are surrounded tonight. We're very tall people. So anyway, I hope you sit back and enjoy the show. We have a lot of fun guests. First up, great band tonight, all the way from Anderson, Powertrain. Very nice, very nice. Nice to have some live musical entertainment along with the show. Our first guest, has anybody, first of all, seen the show ER? I bet you have, at least once. Very popular NBC show. It is a biggie this year. Well, we have, we were talking about this backstage. It seems like everything big that goes on in the world today, there is a Hoosier connection, isn't there? There's always somebody there that they're from Indiana. You look way back in their history, they're from Indiana. So we have that tonight. We have a guest on our show that is from ER. And, I think we even have a little clip from this. This is Abe Ben Ruby, 6'7", Abe, and he is from Indiana. Let's roll that clip first up so we can show you who we're talking about.
Yeah, good choice. The whole father and waiting thing has changed since the Ricky Ricardo days. It's nice to preserve some traditions. Excuse me. Just a sec. I mean, I know how you feel. Excuse me. Hey, can't you see where...
Hey, Jerry, right?
Uh-huh.
I just want to thank you again.
I know, you're welcome. Can you stay here for just 1 minute? 1 minute. 1 minute.
And, of course, he runs off. I didn't get to see him. And he wanted to come meet Reggie tonight. So Reggie's not here. We'll have to hook that up again. To introduce him tonight, the official way, I think what we should do is bring up his dad. And I'm sure you've all heard of his dad, a popular person in radio here in this town. Smasher. Adam Smasher. Anybody heard of him? Yeah? Adam Smasher. Okay? From the legendary Firebirds now. So we thought it'd be nice if you introduce your son.
I will do it. This young man, as he was growing up, I had to discipline him every once in a while. I would take him over my knee and spank him as a little boy. As time went on, he grew to be 6'7", 300 pounds. Now when it comes to discipline, I just try to reason with the young man. You can see him in the movie Twister. You can see him Thursday nights on ER. A lot of you may remember him from the Parker Lewis Can't Lose series. Graduate of Broad Ripple High School, my son, Abraham Ben Ruby.
You left the door open, didn't you?
I sure did. I sure did.
Your dad told us about you.
The
He
techie
warned us
back
all
there was
about
like,
you.
make sure you close the door.
What did you do? Yeah. Well, they told me, why don't you roll down the steps like Boomer? So I guess that's the intro I expect.
And I was going to do that, but then at the last minute, I heard you make a joke about it. So.
Well, at 6'7", and what your dad say, 300 pounds, that would have made a little bit of noise in the old warehouse tonight, right?
Perhaps.
Well, welcome to the Reggie Miller Show. He's
Thank
not
you.
here tonight, by the way. I hate to disappoint you, but
You're
I'll
not
have
Reggie
to... No, I'm not Reggie. I know. Okay. You probably didn't know that.
I thought, your eye looked okay.
Yeah,
so.
see, my eye's fine, and yeah, poor Reggie. And folks are at home adjusting the set now going, that's not Reggie was on the show. Anyway, so nice to see you. And hey, it's got to be exciting. ER, I mean, how did you land that gig,
It's
huh?
pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I had worked for the producers that produced ER once before on a pilot for a show that lasted like a week or something. And so when it came time to cast ER, they called me and offered me this role of Jerry, and the script was great, so I said, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any idea what you're getting into when you first took that role?
Not to the extreme that it's like the entertainment juggernaut, 40 million people every week. So that's pretty crazy.
That probably makes you feel real comfortable when you go in to rehearse and they go, oh, by the way, just about 40 million people will be watching tonight,
Right.
so don't let that bother you.
Yeah, don't disappoint America.
Yeah.
And the
Now,
rest of the world. It's on everywhere.
As a young Hoosier, did you act a little, you know, and think you were going to do this?
Yeah, I started acting in my mom's basement, pretending to be Spider-Man and Captain Kirk, stuff like that. That's how I became an actor. And I did a lot of shows at the Civic Theater, Indianapolis Civic Theater, and I went to Broad Ripple High School, which has a very good performing arts center there, and I did a lot of plays there, and did a movie that filmed here in 1980. What was that? 1989, called Diving In.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
And that's what took me out to L.A.
Yeah, they were down at the Natatorium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, quite a few days in a row. Did you work at this for a long time? I know a lot of actors have told us, hey, it's been a long time coming. I've been working at this for a long time.
Well, in relative terms, yeah. I've been acting since I was 9 years old, so 15 years, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm still moving forward, hopefully.
Right.
You know?
A lot more left to do.
Absolutely.
Huh? Okay.
Absolutely.
You've been a great guest. Thank you so much for introducing us to you and your dad.
Right on.
Always an entertaining family it is. Thanks a lot. Abe Ben Ruby.
Thank you.
So nice having you on the show. Power Train will take us to the break.
The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by your Lincoln Mercury dealer and by Ameritech.
Welcome to an Ameritech test town.
Okay, gentlemen, today, razor cuts. Attention, Henry.
Where folks continually test our stuff to make sure it's easy to use.
I tell you, here in Milan, this style is...
Like video conferencing, which lets you exchange ideas halfway around the world.
Walter, your turn.
Okay.
Now, remember, beauty starts here. It's all mental.
Because if technology doesn't work for people, it doesn't work. Ameritech, your link to better communication.
It's drive one out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with 2.9% financing for up to 48 months or $600 cash back on the exciting Mercury Mystique or the hot-selling Mercury Sable. Either way, you'll drive home a winner with total savings of up to $4,010 on Sable LS and up to $3,222 on Mystique GS. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
Training is such a bore.
Nothing's more intense than slamming a dude. Well, Andre's really on fire. Whoa. Gotta hand it to those new coaches.
Bravo! Brilliant! Smashing! Good shot!
Out. Reggie Miller goes one-on-one with Don Marsh.
I know how much Indiana loves its basketball.
And I know how much Indiana loves its Pacers.
That's why we've always supported the Pacers.
Marsh is a great supermarket, so I'm glad to be teaming up with you to tell...
Excuse me, Mr. Marsh? I hate to interrupt, but may I please have your autograph?
Sure. Thank you.
I just love your commercials.
Marsh, gonna make you smile.
Come to think of it, Mr. Marsh, I love those commercials, too.
Thank you again to Power Train, all the way from Anderson tonight. You see him playing around town now and then. Tonight we have another special guest. First of all, Ann Ryder, which you probably know, but actually Ann's guest is special. Ann and I just decided that between the height of both of us, we might equal Reggie Miller's 6'8". So
we taught him everything he knows about three-pointers, didn't we, Pat?
That's right. Ann Ryder, back in November, she does a series called Hope to Tell, as many of you have seen. And she had a wonderful interview with Scott O'Grady. This was a magnificent story for more reasons than one, but he was a true survivor, somebody that was shot down over Bosnia, survived on his own in amazing ways for 6 days. One of those ways was through the power of prayer. And Ann is going to talk to him. Well, you've talked to him once, and now we're kind of getting to what has happened to him since all this. You think, of course, it would change his life, and we'll see just how much it has changed his life.
I think it has. We've stayed in touch from time to time through the years, and we're about to hear about that very shortly. Scott is in for the Indianapolis 500 and was kind enough to agree to be our guest today. So you're actually going to go out to the audience?
I'm going to slither off the stage for a moment, and I'll let you bring down Scott, and I'll return in just a moment.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a true American hero, Air Force Captain Scott O'Grady. What a band, what an entrance. You're not used to this, are you?
No.
Do they do this in the Air Force Reserves for you?
No.
Certainly, your life has changed. It was almost a year ago that you were shot down, right?
Yes, it was on the 2nd of June. So the 1-year anniversary is coming up.
What's it been like for you this past year?
Well, I've been very busy. I moved to Hill Air Force Base to fly in the Air Force Reserve so I can still fly the F-16. And I had to get requalified in the airplane again. And then I've had so many requests to do things, and I didn't know what to do. And I decided that I was going to take those requests and do the best I could. So now I visit elementary schools. I do things with community organizations. I travel around the country about half of each month, and I will talk maybe at 4 different events, so giving speeches. And then we're just now starting up where I'm going to start a relationship with 2 charities, because there's so many of them that wanted me to do things. And I went ahead and made the decision that I'm going to do something for children, and do something for children that are in an adverse situation, such as cancer or terminally ill diseases. So the 2 charities that I'm going to endorse, and I would encourage people to send their contributions and support to, are the St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and then also the Make-A-Wish Foundation for terminally ill children.
That's wonderful.
So things are
terrific. I'm sure that's one of the ways your life has changed. I mean, a year ago, you were in Italy, flying F-16s, which was your job, and now you're kind of an ambassador. What's it like being dubbed a hero? How does that change your life?
Well, my whole definition of a hero is somebody who helps somebody else. And the event that I went through, actually all I was doing was just helping myself and surviving. But it doesn't take like a 19-year-old Marine to come in under hostile fire to save somebody's life to be a hero. A hero can be somebody such as a parent helping a child to learn from right from wrong, or a teacher helping their students. You know, for me, being dubbed a hero is kind of something that I don't like. But what you find, though, is that if you have some notoriety, whether it be that you desired it or wanted it, or it just fell on top of you like it did in my case, because I didn't go after this, is that you also have a responsibility. And whether you're a sports star, an actor, or a musician that has a platform, your responsibility is to do good things for other people. And you should also be generous to other people. You know, the fact is that you know, you are in the spotlight, and there are young people there that are looking at you as a role model, whether you like it or not. And with that, you know, whether you have the responsibility, you know, what I'm trying to say is that no matter what, you have a responsibility, and the responsibility is to act in a decent manner. So
we'll get into more of your experience and how things have changed and why you're here in Indianapolis when we come back from this break.
And get your
Florida. Thunder.
It's a May tradition. Eyewitness News this race day morning at the Indy 500. Before the green flag falls, Eyewitness News gets you to the track. Count on Chopper 13 to untangle the traffic tie-ups. Bob Gregory to give you the race day forecast. Plus Dave Calabro with all the action from Gasoline Alley to that other race up north. For race day coverage you can count on, join John Stair, Ann Ryder, and Linda Moore Sunday morning from 7 to 11 on Channel 13 Eyewitness News.
Tonight's Holding Court on Race Weekend is brought to you by your Lincoln Mercury dealer.
It's drive one out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with the lowest lease price of the year on the totally redesigned Mercury Sable, just $212 a month. Or get 2.9% financing on a 96 Sable with V6 power, dual airbags, and room for 5 or 6. No wonder sales are up. This is one hot player. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
What you gonna do with all the cash you save?
Muffler trouble? Come to CarX and you'll save a bundle during our half-price muffler sale. These CarX mufflers come with lifetime guarantees. And now you get half off. That's 50% off the price of our most popular CarX mufflers.
What you gonna do with all the cash you save?
So come to your local CarX now for big savings on every muffler. But hurry, our half-price muffler sale will be half over before you know it.
Save a bundle, call the CarX man.
That's great. I can't get used to that. We're not used to that on the news. This is Captain Scott O'Grady's book, Return with Honor. And this was written shortly after his experience in Bosnia. Why did you feel you wanted to get this out in book form right away?
Well, that was, something that a lot of people wanted to hear was my story. And I was constantly being bombarded with interviews. And to tell you the truth, you can't explain everything in an interview. And the only way I could talk to people about what I experienced, whether it was emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, or physically, the only way I could figure out how to put that into one package was to write a book. And the book, it's a nice, the fact is that it's a exciting story. Hopefully that children would be excited about to read it. And then it's about combat survival. It's about military aviation. But more importantly, what really the book is about, it's about 3 issues. It's about faith, it's about love of family, and patriotism.
What did you learn about faith when you were down there in the Bosnian countryside?
Well, what you realize is that, unfortunately, a lot of times in our lives, it takes a life-threatening situation or a health-threatening situation to make you realize what is really important in life. And the fact is that you only get one life. And what it comes down to is that material things, which we are always striving for, do not bring you happiness. The happiness comes from your relationships that you have with your faith and with your family. And it wasn't a new lesson that I learned, but it definitely re-solidified an old lesson.
You could tell when you got back and the first person you thanked was God. You could just see in your eyes that you had experienced something spiritually that was very, very strong. Has that stayed with you?
Well, for 6 days afterwards, I was still very excited, and I was really riding on a plane that I've never been on before. You come down off of that, and you just realize that it's something you constantly have to work on every day.
You have been traveling the country. I know you've had very little time to yourself, but now you are back in Utah, and you're flying for the Air Force Reserves, which you've told me before is something that you wanted to do even before this, that you were shot down in Bosnia. You're a pilot first and foremost, right?
Yes, and it's kind of funny. This whole time in my life that gave me some notoriety allowed me now to go to the Air Force Reserve. It's very difficult to get in. I'm the youngest person in my squadron. The experience base there is phenomenal. And now I don't have to worry about ever leaving the airplane. I can be a fighter pilot for the rest of my career.
What was it like getting back in an F-16 after having yours blown into 2 pieces?
Oh, it was like, well, when you're a kid and you get your bicycle, the very first bike you ever get, that feeling, oh yeah, I got my bike. Woo-hoo! So it was like I got my bike again. I got to ride my bike again.
You were not scared?
No, it was fun.
Riding your bike again. How much does that bike cost?
It's an expensive bike.
Yeah, I guess so. And how fast does that bike go?
Really fast.
Compared to an Indy car?
Well, 2 times the speed of sound.
Oh my
and
God.
at sea level, speed of sound is around 600 knots, which is about 660 miles an hour. So times that by 2. So it can go pretty fast.
Well, the Indy 500 won't thrill you then, will it?
Well, it's a different sensation because when you're flying that fast and you're above the ground at a really high altitude, you don't get the sensation of things moving past you as quickly as you do in an Indy car.
All right, we'll be back with questions from the audience with Captain Scott O'Grady right after this.
It's Drive One out of the park time at your Lincoln Mercury dealers. Hit a home run with 2.9% financing for up to 48 months or $600 cash back on the exciting Mercury Mystique or the hot-selling Mercury Sable. Either way, you'll drive home a winner with total savings of up to $4,010 on Sable LS and up to $3,222 on Mystique GS. But hurry, you've only got a few days left to get into the game. Miss it, and you're out.
Imagine yourself in a Mercury now.
Welcome to an Ameritech test town, where folks try out real breakthroughs in communications technology.
Hello? Just the brother-in-law. You still using that passive display?
If a product doesn't make it out of here, it doesn't make it out.
Charlie? Hello?
Charlie?
Those buttons are too small.
Separate checks, guys?
I'll get it.
Because if technology doesn't work for people,
Anyone know how to make this thing stop flashing 12?
it doesn't work. Ameritech, your link to better communication.
Tonight's special Q&A with Scott O'Grady is brought to you by Marsh.
The Marsh Fresh Idea Card. So versatile, you could say the sky's the limit. Like when you make purchases with your Marsh Fresh Idea Card, it goes toward points for the Marsh Computers for Communities program. That means new computers for schools, churches, and nonprofit organizations. The Marsh Fresh Idea Card, the most valuable thing in your wallet. For more information on Computers for Communities, call 1-800-811-4567.
Child's play.
Whoa. Shaking, not stirred.
Nothing's more intense than slamming a dude.
The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by Marsh and by Mountain Dew.
Welcome back to the Reggie Miller Show. We are in the warehouse tonight, and I'm out here in the audience. This has been an interesting show. We've had an interesting mix of guests here tonight. We have Scott O'Grady up on the set, and we also have Abe Ben-Ruby from the hit show ER. So we're going to take a few questions now from the audience, and our first question comes from Jeff.
Hi. Hi. Scott, you've been a great role model for my son, and we were kind of wondering if there's anything that survival school didn't prepare you for.
Well, the survival school was great. I went back there and debriefed with them. I said, you know, that the training that I received saved my life. They asked me what can they do to improve the training. I told them really it was perfect. But the one thing that you might want to do is that we were taught on how to resist if we get caught. Well, I didn't get caught, so I didn't have to resist against, you know, hostile forces, but I didn't know how to handle the media. So afterwards, so maybe if they could add that training in on how to resist the, you know, against the hostile media, then maybe that would be the only thing to improve on.
All right, now we've got to get to the serious questions here for Scott O'Grady, and CJ here has a really good question. Tell us what you got.
When you were in the woods and you were eating bugs, what kind of food did you wish you were eating?
Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to tell you that I only ate ants, and they were crunchy and sour, and I don't recommend any of the kids out there in the audience to go home now and say that it was okay to eat bugs because Captain Scott O'Grady did. So, but when I was out there, you know, food is not an issue. You'll eat anything to survive, anything to stay alive, if it's okay to eat. But when I came back, of course, you know, my favorite thing would be to eat pizza. I love pizza. But when I came back and I was on board the ship, they fed me, and they eat very well in the Navy. I ate crab legs and all the strawberry ice cream I could eat, so it was good.
I bet so. All right, we have a question now over here for Abe Ben Ruby, who, well, does not eat bugs, but I'm sure you have a good question for him.
Hi, I just wanted to say that I think you're great on ER, and I was wondering how the ensemble cast works together and if everybody's as chummy as they appear.
Chummy. Chummy is the right word. Yeah, it's a very fun cast. You know, we deal with, in the acting, you deal with a really heavy-duty situation and very dramatic and depressing sometimes. So in between, it's all jokes, and like we have a big rubber baby, and George Clooney will slap the rubber baby, stuff like that. It's very goofy. It's a good group of people.
Okay, sounds good. We also want to wrap up now this evening, too. By the way, Reggie Miller will return next week. So before we go, Ann Ryder's been helping out here tonight. We have a question for Ann Ryder, her recent trip to Mother Teresa in Calcutta. Chris.
Yeah, I was wondering, Ann, since you got to talk to Mother Teresa, and now that you're back in Indiana, if that's affected her life spiritually or in any way.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's affected me in ways that I don't even know yet. One of the things that I learned from Mother Teresa is reminiscent of something Scott said earlier, and it's a different take on materialism. Being in a place like Calcutta, seeing the kind of poverty that we saw, that you know, I thought I had seen poverty. I'd never seen anything quite like this before. The nuns live very, very simply, and they think that when we surround ourselves with our material things, it tends to block us off sometimes from the people we love and also from our God. And I think that there's something to be said for living more simply, and I think that frees us up to do kinder things for the people around us as well. So I think that's one way that perhaps it will affect me, and I think in ways that I can't even imagine yet, hopefully toward helping other people.
All right. Thank you, Ann. Reggie, by the way, will be back next week. It's right out of the audience. Is that great or what?
That's great.
Thank you to all of our guests.
Thanks.
Abe Bedroomwood from the #1 show, ER. Thanks for being with us. Scott O'Grady, did a wonderful job. We love hearing your story over and over again. It's wonderful. And Ann Ryder. And Power Train.
The Reggie Miller Show is brought to you in part by Ameritech and your Lincoln Mercury dealer. Guests on the show receive dinner for two at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Ruth Chris, home of serious sports fans. Furniture for the Reggie Miller Show is provided by Kittles.
Like the time I went and said goodbye. Now sit around, all I do is cry. Ooh, baby, here I am,